Living with diabetes is not only about taking medication or monitoring your glucose numbers. It is about building a new relationship with food, a relationship that is both cautious and empowering. For decades, the general advice has been simple: eat more vegetables. And while this advice is broadly true for overall health, the story becomes more complicated for people managing diabetes or prediabetes. Not all vegetables are created equal when it comes to their impact on blood sugar. Some vegetables are rich in fiber, antioxidants, and micronutrients that help stabilize glucose and even improve insulin sensitivity. But others, surprisingly common ones that appear on dining tables every day, are loaded with starches or natural sugars that convert rapidly in the body. These vegetables can trigger glucose spikes, leaving you fatigued, interfering with your long-term glucose control, and even increasing the risk of diabetes complications if eaten carelessly. Recent studies have shown how important it is to understand not only the calorie content of food, but also its glycemic index and glycemic load. According to the American Diabetes Association, high glycemic index foods accelerate the release of glucose into the bloodstream, leading to more fluctuations and increased strain on the pancreas and cardiovascular system. A Harvard cohort study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition even linked high glycemic diets, especially from starchy vegetables, with a greater risk of type 2 diabetes over time. In this video, we will explore 10 vegetables that may look safe, but can cause blood sugar to rise more than expected. For each, we will discuss why it is problematic, what the science shows, and what smarter swaps you can make. By the end, you will have a clear roadmap for building meals that are not only rich in vegetables, but also truly safe for your glucose control and long-term health. Vegetable 1. Potatoes, the starch overload. Potatoes are among the most widely consumed vegetables in the world. They are versatile, inexpensive, and comforting. Found in mashed potatoes at family dinners, French fries at fast food restaurants, and baked potatoes topped with butter or sour cream. Yet for people living with diabetes, potatoes can be a nutritional trap. The primary issue lies in their glycemic index, GI. Depending on the variety and cooking method, the GI of potatoes can range from 78 to as high as 111, which places them firmly in the high category. High GI foods break down into glucose very quickly once eaten, causing rapid surges in blood sugar. A study published in the British Medical Journal examined dietary patterns across large populations and found that frequent potato consumption, particularly French fries, was associated with a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. This link remained even after adjusting for body weight and lifestyle factors. The carbohydrate load of potatoes is also substantial. One medium-sized potato, weighing about 150 grams, contains approximately 30 grams of carbohydrates. For someone with diabetes, this alone could raise blood glucose significantly, especially if eaten without protein or fiber to slow digestion. The problem is not only in the numbers, but in the way potatoes are often prepared. Frying them adds unhealthy fats and salt, and mashing or baking them makes the starch easier to digest, further increasing the speed of glucose absorption. Some argue that a very small portion of plain boiled potato may occasionally fit into a balanced diabetic diet, and indeed, portion control is key. However, the margin for error is small, and the risk of spikes remains high. Safer alternatives include steamed cauliflower, roasted broccoli, or turnips, which provide bulk and satisfaction without the glucose surge. For long-term blood sugar stability, most experts recommend limiting potatoes to rare occasions, if at all. Vegetable 2. Sweet corn, the deceptive grain. Corn is one of the most beloved foods in the world. Sweet corn on the cob at a summer cookout, popcorn at the movies, or cornbread on the dinner table. It feels wholesome and harmless, but for individuals living with diabetes, corn can be surprisingly deceptive. Although we treat it as a vegetable in the kitchen, corn is technically a grain. Half a cup of cooked corn delivers about 21 grams of carbohydrates and has a glycemic index ranging from 52 to 60, which is considered moderate to high. This means even modest portions can cause noticeable increases in blood glucose. The sweet in sweet corn is not just a name. It contains more natural sugar than many other vegetables. Scientific research supports these concerns. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that higher intake of starchy vegetables, including corn, was associated with poorer glycemic control compared with non-starchy vegetables. The problem is amplified when corn appears in processed forms: creamed corn, cornbread, corn chips, or casseroles. These dishes often combine corn with added fats, sugar, or refined flours, further driving up both the glycemic load and calorie content. For someone with diabetes, balance is essential. Eating a few kernels of corn within a meal that also includes lean protein and fiber may be acceptable. However, relying on corn as a regular side dish or snacking freely on corn products is likely to disrupt blood sugar management. Better alternatives include sautéed spinach, steamed asparagus, or crisp green beans. These provide vitamins, minerals, and fiber with a much lower impact on glucose. The key takeaway is that corn is not forbidden, but it requires strict portion control and careful pairing. Otherwise, it becomes one of the most misleading vegetables for diabetics. Vegetable 3. Green peas, the starchy surprise. Green peas are often seen as a symbol of healthy eating. Their vibrant color, sweet taste, and convenience make them a popular addition to soups, salads, and side dishes. But for those managing diabetes, peas carry more starch than most realize. 1 cup of cooked peas contains 20 to 21 grams of carbohydrates, similar to some grains. Although their glycemic index is moderate, averaging around 51, the sheer carbohydrate density means they can raise blood sugar noticeably if eaten in larger servings. Unlike leafy greens or cruciferous vegetables, peas behave more like a starchy side dish than a truly free vegetable. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition highlighted that diets high in starchy vegetables, including peas, were linked to greater insulin resistance over time compared with diets rich in non-starchy vegetables. This does not mean peas are entirely unhealthy. They provide vitamin C, vitamin K, and some fiber. But when blood sugar stability is the goal, their starch content cannot be ignored. Peas often appear in combination with other carbohydrates: pasta salads, rice pilafs, pot pies. In these contexts, they add to the carbohydrate load without people even realizing it. For people with diabetes, a tablespoon or two sprinkled on a dish is unlikely to cause major issues. But making peas a daily staple, or eating them in large portions, can create glucose challenges. A smarter strategy is to replace peas with alternatives such as green beans, zucchini, or broccoli florets. These allow you to enjoy larger portions with far fewer carbs and a gentler effect on blood sugar. In short, peas are not as harmless as they appear. Moderation, portion control, and substitution are key. Vegetable 4. Butternut squash, the sneaky sugar source. When the weather cools down, butternut squash finds its way into many kitchens. Its golden orange flesh, slightly sweet flavor, and creamy texture make it a favorite for soups, stews, and roasted dishes. It is often praised for its high vitamin A content and antioxidants. However, for people living with diabetes, butternut squash is more complex than it seems. 1 cup of cooked butternut squash contains about 16 grams of carbohydrates and has a glycemic index ranging from 51 to 70 depending on cooking method. Roasting, which is the most popular way to prepare squash, concentrates the natural sugars, pushing the glycemic impact even higher. The result? A seemingly healthy bowl of roasted squash soup may lead to an unexpected glucose rise. Scientific literature supports this. A paper published in Diabetes Care emphasized that even natural sugars from starchy vegetables like squash can raise post-meal glucose significantly, particularly when eaten in large servings. The challenge with butternut squash is portion size. Because it is often served pureed in soups or mashed in dishes, it is easy to consume double or triple the intended portion without realizing it. Does this mean butternut squash must be completely avoided? Not necessarily. In small amounts, paired with fiber-rich greens and lean protein, it may fit into an occasional meal. But it should not serve as the main vegetable on a diabetic plate. Safer alternatives include zucchini, bell peppers, or eggplant, vegetables with lower carbohydrate loads and far less risk of spiking glucose. Ultimately, while butternut squash has undeniable nutritional value, it also hides sugars that require respect and moderation. For diabetes management, being aware of its carbohydrate density is crucial. Vegetable 5. Pumpkin, the high GI culprit. Pumpkin has become an iconic symbol of autumn. From soups and roasted cubes to pumpkin pies, lattes, and muffins, it is everywhere during the cooler months. Nutritionally, pumpkin is rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, and antioxidants. But beneath this reputation lies a challenge for people managing diabetes. Pumpkin has a glycemic index of around 75, which means that its carbohydrates are broken down and absorbed rapidly. A single cup of cooked pumpkin contains about 12 grams of carbohydrates. While that may not seem excessive, the speed at which those carbs turn into sugar is the real problem. Foods with a high glycemic index can cause sharp glucose spikes, followed by drops that leave you tired and hungry. The greater danger is that pumpkin is rarely eaten plain. Most pumpkin-based dishes, pies, breads, cakes, and pumpkin-spiced lattes are loaded with added sugar. These additions amplify the glycemic impact dramatically. According to a study in the Journal of the American Dietetic Association, high glycemic diets, particularly those containing refined sugars and starchy vegetables, were linked to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular complications. Even roasting pumpkin without sugar can concentrate its natural sweetness, making glucose management more difficult. For those with diabetes, a few tablespoons of plain pumpkin puree might be acceptable if combined with protein and fiber. But as a regular side dish, it presents too much risk. Better daily alternatives are non-starchy vegetables with low glycemic indices, such as leafy greens, broccoli, or bell peppers. These provide equal or greater nutrient density with a much smaller effect on blood sugar. The message is clear. Pumpkin can be enjoyed sparingly, but it should never form the backbone of a diabetic-friendly diet. Vegetable 6. Beetroot, the naturally sugary root. Beetroot, with its deep crimson color and earthy flavor, has become popular as a superfood. It is often praised for its nitrates, which may help lower blood pressure and improve circulation. However, for people with diabetes, beetroot can be a double-edged sword. 1 cup of cooked beetroot contains about 13 grams of carbohydrates and has a glycemic index of around 61, placing it in the moderate range. While this is lower than potatoes or pumpkin, the natural sugar content of beets makes them capable of raising blood glucose more than many leafy or cruciferous vegetables. Scientific evidence highlights the risks. A study published in Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism showed that beetroot juice, which removes nearly all the fiber, led to rapid increases in post-meal blood glucose. Pickled beets, another common preparation, are often made with added sugar in the brine, further amplifying the problem. On the positive side, beets contain fiber, folate, and antioxidants such as betalains, which may help reduce oxidative stress. But these benefits can only be harnessed if the portions are small and the preparation is mindful. Eating beets occasionally in salads, alongside protein and high-fiber vegetables, may be acceptable. Drinking beet juice or consuming large servings, however, is not advisable for someone trying to keep glucose steady. Safer swaps include dark leafy greens such as kale, Swiss chard, or spinach, which deliver similar micronutrients without the sugar surge. The lesson with beets is balance. Respect their nutritional value, but never forget their natural sugar load. Vegetable 7. Sweet potatoes. The health halo trap. Sweet potatoes have earned a reputation as a healthier choice than white potatoes. They are richer in vitamin A, contain more fiber, and have a slightly lower glycemic index, averaging around 61 when boiled. Many people believe this makes them a safe carbohydrate for diabetes. But the reality is more complicated. A medium sweet potato weighing about 100 to 115 grams contains 23 to 25 grams of carbohydrates. That is nearly equivalent to 2 slices of bread. Even though the fiber slows absorption compared to white potatoes, the starch load is still significant. A study in the Journal of Nutrition and Metabolism found that while sweet potatoes had a milder effect than white potatoes, they still caused notable post-meal glucose rises in people with impaired glucose tolerance. The bigger danger comes from preparation. In many cultures, sweet potatoes are served as candied yams, topped with marshmallows, or baked with sugar and butter. These methods eliminate any health advantage and create a dessert-level glycemic impact. Even baked or roasted sweet potatoes can cause spikes if portions are not controlled. That does not mean sweet potatoes must be eliminated entirely. A small boiled portion paired with lean protein and leafy greens may be manageable for some individuals. But relying on them as a staple carbohydrate can confuse blood sugar control. For predictable stability, it is better to focus on non-starchy vegetables such as cauliflower, zucchini, or broccoli. Sweet potatoes may wear a health halo, but for people with diabetes, they remain a food that requires strict moderation, not free permission. Vegetable 8. Yams, the hidden high-carb root. True yams, distinct from sweet potatoes, are commonly eaten in African, Asian, and Caribbean cuisines. In the United States, the terms yam and sweet potato are often used interchangeably, adding to the confusion. Nutritionally, however, yams share the same cautionary profile. 100 grams of yam contains 17 to 18 grams of carbohydrates and has a glycemic index of about 51, though this can vary by variety and preparation. While not as high as white potatoes, it is still significant for individuals monitoring their glucose. Research in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that yam-based diets provided valuable micronutrients such as potassium and vitamin C, but also contributed to elevated post-meal glucose readings compared to non-starchy vegetables. This demonstrates the carbohydrate density that people with diabetes must be mindful of. The challenge is that yams are often eaten in large portions, as boiled chunks, fried slices, or stewed in traditional recipes. Without portion control, their starch content can easily push blood sugar higher than expected. Frying them adds extra calories and unhealthy fats, compounding the risk. For someone managing diabetes, treating yams like potatoes or sweet potatoes is the safest rule of thumb. Keep servings small, combine with protein and high-fiber vegetables, and avoid preparations that add sugar or fat. For daily meals, above-ground vegetables such as cabbage, okra, or green beans are more reliable staples. Yams have cultural and nutritional value, but in diabetes care, they must be approached with the same caution as all starchy roots, useful in moderation, but never the centerpiece of a glucose-friendly plate. Vegetable 9, taro, colocasia, the starchy offender. Taro root, also known as colocasia or arbi, is a staple in many Asian, Pacific Island, and South Asian cuisines. It has a creamy texture and unique flavor that makes it a popular ingredient in curries, stews, and fried snacks. But nutritionally, taro presents challenges for people with diabetes. 100 grams of taro contains about 17 grams of carbohydrates and has a glycemic index of around 60, placing it in the moderate category. Like other starchy tubers, taro digests into glucose relatively quickly. Especially when boiled or fried, research published in the International Journal of Food Sciences and Nutrition noted that taro has beneficial minerals such as magnesium and potassium, along with dietary fiber. However, the same study emphasized its high starch load, which can significantly raise post-meal blood sugar if eaten in common portion sizes. Fried taro preparations add another layer of risk, combining starch with unhealthy fats and sometimes salt. For people with diabetes, this makes taro a food to handle with care. Small portions may be possible when paired with protein and a variety of low-glycemic vegetables such as spinach, fenugreek leaves, or cabbage. But using taro as the main carbohydrate source is likely to lead to glucose instability. While taro offers unique flavor and cultural importance, the safest approach for those with diabetes is to treat it as an occasional indulgence, not a daily staple. Substituting with cauliflower, zucchini, or leafy greens provides a safer, more stable path for blood sugar control. Vegetable 10. Vegetable juice. The fiberless trap. At first glance, vegetable juice seems like the perfect solution. A quick drink that provides all the goodness of vegetables without the effort of cooking. But for people with diabetes, this convenience can be a dangerous trap. The problem lies in the removal of fiber. When vegetables are juiced, their natural fiber is stripped away. Fiber plays a crucial role in slowing the absorption of sugar, stabilizing blood glucose, and supporting digestive health. Without fiber, the natural sugars and carbohydrates in vegetables enter the bloodstream much more quickly. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that liquid carbohydrate sources, including juices, caused significantly faster and higher spikes in blood glucose than their whole food counterparts. Even juices marketed as 100% vegetable often contain hidden fruit juice for sweetness, raising the sugar content even more. A single cup can contain 20 grams of carbohydrates or more with almost no fiber. This does not mean vegetables should be avoided. On the contrary, eating vegetables whole, raw, steamed, or lightly roasted provides fiber, antioxidants, and nutrients in a balanced form that supports blood sugar stability. Whole vegetables also enhance satiety, reducing the urge to overeat. For diabetics, the bottom line is simple. Eat your vegetables, do not drink them. Vegetable juices may be convenient, but they rob you of the fiber and slow release of energy that make vegetables so powerful for health. To support stable blood sugar, stick with whole forms whenever possible. Practical tips: smart swaps for blood sugar control. So how can you eat vegetables wisely with diabetes? Portion control is essential. Starchy vegetables must be limited in serving size. Cooking methods matter. Steaming, boiling, or grilling with a touch of healthy oil is far better than frying or loading with sauces. Balance your plate. Pair starchy vegetables with lean protein and healthy fats like avocado to slow sugar absorption. Choose daily staples wisely. Leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, bell peppers, and zucchini should form the base of your meals. Read labels carefully. Many packaged vegetables or juices contain hidden sugars or excessive salt. Finally, remember that each person responds differently. Monitoring your blood sugar after meals and consulting with a registered dietitian can help you create a plan that works for your body. 4. It can feel discouraging to hear that some beloved vegetables may not be ideal for diabetes. But knowledge is power. By understanding how potatoes, corn, peas, squashes, beets, sweet potatoes, yams, taro, and juices affect blood sugar, you can make smarter swaps every day. You do not need to remove vegetables entirely. You simply need to choose carefully, watch portions, and fill your plate with high-fiber, low-glycemic heroes. Small, consistent choices lead to more stable blood sugar, better long-term health, and greater confidence in living well with diabetes. If you found this helpful, please share this video with someone you know who is navigating diabetes. And let us know in the comments, which of these vegetables surprised you the most?